Welcome to Winds of Change. I'm your host, Emmy DeGrappa. Winds of Change is brought to you by Wyoming Humanities. Wyoming Humanities is committed to sharing the stories of the people, places, and history of Wyoming. In this special series, we are talking to Wyoming entrepreneurs and innovators and the people and companies that support them. I'd like to introduce you to Baylie Evans, Managing Director, and Stephanie Reece, Program Manager at Gener8tor. And Gener8tor is a nationally ranked venture capital firm and accelerator that unites startup founders, investors, corporations, job seekers, universities, musicians, and artists. And wow, I especially love the musicians and artists part, but okay, that's another story. This is how innovation drives success and survival in Wyoming. And it's the people who get behind these startup companies and help them become a success. So I just want to welcome you, Baylie and Stephanie.
Thanks, Emmy. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So I'll just start with Baylie. Where did you grow up? How did you start down this road, and how did this become, something you love and have a passion for?
Yeah, thank you for asking. If you'd asked me maybe 10, 15 years ago where I saw myself, it wouldn't have been here. But I am really, really happy and proud to be here, and proud that my journey has me where I am now. So it's been a bit of a winding journey, I guess you could say. I grew up in the Denver area. I went to Colorado State. Don't be too mad at me. I was young and stupid. I should have gone to UW.
Okay. I have to interrupt right there because I grew up in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I love Wyoming to death. I get it. But you can't apologize. I never been.
Okay, fair enough. I can honestly say I've never been to a CSU or a UW football game, so I don't have much allegiance to either team. But I did spend some time at Colorado State. That's where I got my journalism degree. So I actually went to school, thought I would be a reporter, a journalist. I ended up getting a job as a reporter for the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle just across the border in Cheyenne, and commuted from Fort Collins for about a year before I realized, first of all, that commute's no fun. And second of all, Cheyenne's great. Like I wanted to move here and started to put down roots in Cheyenne. So did that, moved here. I guess that was about 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. And I've been here ever since. So I started out, like I said, as a reporter at the Tribune-Eagle. I wrote articles there. We called it the Puppies and Pageants beat. So it was like general assignment. But I got to write about a lot of new businesses opening, which was really fun. And I always found a lot of, I guess, connection to what a new business can do for our state here. So wrote about those for a while. Ended up realizing that I really wanted to get a little deeper into the Wyoming world and the Cheyenne world. As a reporter, you definitely get ingrained in the community, but it's very surface level. It's kind of like whatever people want to tell you, or whatever you can dig into a little bit and get deeper into. And I wanted to be part of the people who were making the stories, so I actually kind of jumped ship out of journalism and went into nonprofits. I worked for a couple of nonprofits, the Boys and Girls Club being kind of the main, where I spent most of my time in that phase, in that era at the Boys and Girls Club, doing marketing and fundraising, doing a lot of their development efforts. So did that for a little while, and ended up realizing that I missed some writing. I missed storytelling, got back into copywriting and telling stories. I wrote copy for the Sierra Trading Post website for a while and described products. And that was fun. Surprisingly creative, actually. I got to get pretty creative with it. Until I didn't, until it was acquired. Sierra was acquired, and it became a little bit more of just bullet point stats about different products. And so I missed the creativity of that. So I ended up working at the Wyoming Business Council for a little bit, doing some storytelling for them, press releases, articles, things like that. I told you this was a winding path. I'm getting to the end of it here. The Business Council is what led me to this job at Gener8tor. And I've been here now for about 4 years and loving it, realizing that this is really where my path has been leading me all this time, I feel like. And this is kind of where I have discovered the most ability to affect positive change for our state is at Gener8tor, and being able to help new businesses, help entrepreneurs find find their own journeys and discover what some venture capital funding can do for them and help them take advantage of that and, helping Wyoming diversify its economy, things like that. So that was a long answer, but that's the story.
No, that's exactly what we want to hear. And it's so interesting how you started out in journalism and writing about startups and how that becomes its own passion.
Yeah.
And I think, you start learning about, and I guess that's why I love podcasting so much, because I love people's stories. And the more you learn about someone's story, you're kind of like, wow, I really want to learn more. I want to know more. I want to support that. And I think that's why I love people who get behind entrepreneurs to help them succeed. That is so cool.
I love storytelling too. And yeah, happy to be here. Your turn, Steph. Or go back.
Your turn, Stephanie.
Yeah, well, I'm actually proud to say I am a Wyoming cowgirl. So I support UW full, but I again won't hold it against you guys because I'm, you're lovely people. But no, I was born and raised here in Cheyenne. So I'm a Wyoming native, and then spent a lot of time in Laramie. Got my bachelor's and my master's of science degrees at the University of Wyoming. But it was similar to Bailey's. I've lived what feels like 4 lives at this point for my professional career. And I actually started in higher education and education as a whole with kinesiology and health. Yeah, went straight to my master's, thought that was it. Lasted about 8 years. Did higher education for a lot of those years, did K-12. So I really tried to get every level of education just to kind of see where I fit best. And without going into a whole can of worms there with education and teachers and sort of the issues that they face and lack of support, I could go on for a while, but got a little burnt out, wanted something different there. I'd been in customer service. Gosh, I've been working since I was 14. First job was Burger King, and I've worked in a variety of, I worked at the country club here, served in a lot of different places. I've worked at the Wyoming State Bar. I've worked at, anything and everything, bartended through college. So I had a lot of that background in working with people. And so socially and sort of understanding how people behave and what they want and what they want out of you in terms of a service. And so I feel like I have a solid grasp on that. And so I felt like teaching was maybe not the direction for me and I've always felt like an entrepreneur at heart, but I didn't have a lot of the business background, which ironically, I think a lot of entrepreneurs in the state don't necessarily have that background. And so they feel like maybe I have to get an MBA or something, entrepreneurship is for creatives at the same time. So I would say I kind of went out on a limb and quit my job and applied and got the general manager position at Blacktooth Brewing Company here in Cheyenne. And I opened up our Cheyenne location and then subsequently our Casper location. Had an amazing boss who told me, don't go to business school. You'll learn a lot just on the job. And so was able to work there for 4 years and learned everything I possibly could. Ended up being director of taproom operations for all 3 of our locations and really got a good sense of business management, operations, logistics, inventory management. I mean, responsible for everything at that point. But I felt maybe that was a blessing and a curse. And it's a really tough thing to be in charge of everything and especially staff that works part-time and may not love it 100% like you love it. So it got a little war on me a little bit. And so I'm still in this exploratory journey professionally and see kind of where I fit and what I want my purpose to be. And so wanted to switch gears, and that's what brought me to Gener8tor. I was able to apply and was interviewed by Baylie, and luckily she had my position prior to, her promotion. And so I felt like working with people individually made more of an impact for me. I could serve people beer, great. I can teach kids, but I'm not sure it was making that much of an impact. So this position allows me to not only, organize things and be good at the program management aspect, which is just fits my personality in general, but to meet new people and meet people all around Wyoming and offer such amazing services for free for them. Oftentimes, maybe they think it's maybe too good to be true or there's a catch or something, but I think that's the best part is they're getting really quality time with us. And so being able to work with them individually and like Baylie said, just maybe help them in some sort of way or provide my experience or expertise in some way, shape, or form. I think it's really cool. So that's where I'm at now. And my husband and I are both entrepreneurs, so we're all busy, but I think it's great. So here I am.
Excellent. Oh my gosh, you both have so much great lived experience, actually. That's the thing I always think about, especially when you're an entrepreneur. And I have 2 daughters who are entrepreneurs. And a lot of times it's not your education, it's your lived experience. And it is your passion about what you're doing. It's much deeper than getting a degree. Nothing against college education. I think that's important. But when you're an entrepreneur, you got to go deeper and farther, and in a way that the obstacles you might face aren't the ones you're going to ever learn in college. It's like what you were saying about running a brewery, or even just like you have this passion, but maybe not everyone around you has that same passion. And like you said, it just wore you out because you're trying to be all things all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why those positions there's a lot of turnover, especially in the food and beverage industry and the service industry. So 4 years was an eternity, but the amount of stuff I learned is incredible. So I got to give my bosses props for that, for sure.
That's right. Tell me more deeply about Gener8tor. Like, how did you learn about it? How does it help people? What does Gener8tor do that is really significant?
Yeah, I'll give that one to Baylie.
Okay, maybe I'll start with the kind of overall Gener8tor look at things, and then Steph can go into more detail about G-Beta Wyoming, since that's what she focuses on. So Gener8tor is as you alluded to in the beginning, it is a national venture capital and accelerator company. So we operate in something like 40 communities around the country. And if you go on our website and look at the map, it's all middle America, right? We don't really work in Silicon Valley, California. We don't work in Boston and New York, where venture capital tends to be very concentrated. That's where most venture capital activity happens, is on the coasts. We operate in places like Wyoming and Illinois and Nebraska and Alaska and Oklahoma. So these communities, these states that are often underfunded, underestimated, but there's a lot of talent here and a lot of innovation and a lot of, great minds. So Gener8tor has found our niche in serving those communities, those founders, those companies that, don't live in Silicon Valley or aren't located there. So the original Gener8tor program is an investment accelerator. So it's a similar model to other investment accelerators where, like I said, the original one, Steph will clarify, G-Beta is separate, but the original program, Gener8tor program, was and is a 12-week accelerator program. We take founders in early stages of building a company, and the original program was to invest money into those companies and then run them through this 12-week boot camp style course where they kind of learn about the math of venture capital. They learn about what it means to sell equity. Do you actually want to sell equity? Are you on an exit path for your company? Because if you want to hold on to it forever, that's a different journey, equally valuable, but different. And we want to help founders understand the differences between those and, what milestones and metrics they need to be looking to make along that journey in order to impress investors and then get investors to invest in their company, and then grow it big and then exit, and that's when everybody kind of gets their investments, the returns on those investments. So that was the original program, started running that in 2010. Right? I think 2010 was the original programming. And in doing that work, the original, Gener8tor leaders realized that there was a need for an even earlier stage program. So for companies that aren't really ready to take investment into their company from Gener8tor, they created the G-Beta program, which is a free program, meaning founders don't pay anything to participate and they don't sell any equity to participate in the G-Beta program. And I think that's the spot where I'll let Steph take over and tell you about G-Beta Wyoming and its history, if you'd like, Steph.
Yeah. First I'll address just being attracted to Gener8tor as a company, they do focus on those niche areas. Like you mentioned, Emmy, like they focus on artists and musicians. They have one, accelerator for that. We have upskilling. The product line is so diverse. And at least from what I've seen over the last almost year, their commitment to diversity and helping these underserved founders is incredible. I don't see a lot of other accelerator programs or venture capital firms doing those things. So it's commendable for sure. So I love that aspect. But I think in terms of our focus here in Wyoming, it is these very early stage programs are so important, at least from what we've seen. We just implemented an even earlier stage or G Alpha program that really helps entrepreneurs at the idea stage. And so it's a free statewide virtual program, which makes things even more accessible for these folks, especially in the smaller towns. But it's a workshop. So we can ideate, we can talk about your idea, your concept. What does it look like? Do you have a minimum viable product? Who's your market? Who's your competition? We kind of go into the very early stages of what do they need to know? Is it something innovative and marketable? And then what Baylie mentioned a little bit ago, what is venture capital in general? And what does that strategy look like? And is that strategy something you'd be willing to pursue? And so that education piece, I think, is really important because we're seeing some folks who are a little scared or hesitant to go that direction or don't know a lot about it, or it's super intimidating, especially for females who maybe you don't see very often in that, especially in Wyoming. So we kind of help them through that. And so that's G Alpha, free. And then the next step then is G Beta. It's also free, statewide and virtual. Thank you to our awesome program sponsor, Microsoft. They allow us to offer these programs for free. And G Beta is a little bit more early stage companies. They can be pre-revenue, post-revenue, in this spot where they're ready to grow. They're open to scalability. They have venture backable characteristics. Maybe it's tech, maybe it's a patent, maybe it's, something that we know can grow and scale quickly, which investors are looking for. So we've worked with all walks of life in terms of ideas. It's industry agnostic. But throughout the 7 weeks, they have coaching sessions with me. They meet 30 plus mentors. They meet 25 or more investors. And so we facilitate those meetings to really expand their network. And then give them a celebration showcase at the end of the program. But it seems to really help them understand what it takes to really focus on growth, because it's a kick in the butt for some people, I would say, in terms of what they need to do to get their idea out there, get their product, be able to sell reliably. And then, from there. So I do think sometimes it takes a little push, and Baylie and I are the ones to do that.
Oh my God. You get to kick them in the butt.
Well, it's virtual, so a virtual kick.
I loved how you did that. That was so good.
We like to light the fire, right? We have a little bit of fuel and light the fire, because we coach 20% month over month growth is kind of the gold star standard for investors to be looking for. And when you break that down, 20% month over month growth is a lot of growth. That is fast growth. And so we help them understand, okay, if you wanted to grow 20% month over month, what does that mean this week? How many sales do you need to make this week? And then what's 20% more than that next week, and 20% more than that, and then month over month. And you see, that's where you start to see that hockey stick curve of growth. And we help them understand that. We help them understand, like I said, the math of venture capital. What does it mean to sell 10% equity when you're selling, 10% of a small pie, and then 10 years later, it's a much bigger pie. You still have, a payday at the end of the day. That's the goal. So if it's okay, maybe now's the time to talk a little bit about the success of the program so far, or are you going to get to that later, Emmy?
No, that would be. Okay. I really want to know some stories and examples of how you've witnessed and helped people succeed.
Yeah, sure. So the G Beta Wyoming program was launched in 2020. That's when I was hired. And so we've worked for 4 years. We have, 35 alumni now, Steph, through the G Beta program. Those 35 alumni have gone on to raise $16.5 million on their own. And we're really proud of that. That's, 16 million more than maybe the state has had before. So
we're actually at 18 million now.
You're right. It's 18 million. We had an update just recently. So yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Baylie, but just in case, because I forgot to say this about G Beta, we only take 5 companies in our cohort. That's why it's only 35 over the last 4 years. So, the amount of
okay.
applications we get. So I would say G-Beta, it definitely is competitive, but we only take 5 because our bandwidth to help them individually, only goes so far. So we want to give them like a white glove concierge service style accelerator.
Oh my gosh, that makes it super special.
Yeah.
Thank you for
So
clarifying.
you apply- Okay. Now I get that.
So there's an application process. We choose 5. We choose 5 of the applicants for each cohort. We run 2 cohorts each year. Yeah, so we choose 5 based on, our opinion that they could be scalable, that they could be venture backable or investable. Sometimes the founders honestly don't even see that yet, and we have to sort of help them understand, like, this is where we could see you going. Of course, this is your company. We aren't forcing anything. This is a free program. It is still completely their choice, but we can help illuminate that path a little of venture capital and help them understand what it could do for them if that's what they decide they want to do. So yeah, back to what I was saying, and thank you for clarifying that, Steph, because that helps. So our 35 alumni have raised over 18 million, and they've created, it's about 100 jobs, I believe, across all of those companies have created a bunch of jobs too. So we're really proud of that. And let's see, I will share a couple of stories of some of my alumni that I worked with, if that's okay. And then Steph, maybe you'd like to share some of yours. There's a few that I would like to highlight. It's like picking a favorite child. They've all done amazing things. I'm really proud of all of them.
So they are all special.
Yeah, they're all, and not every company that comes through our G-Beta program decides to go on and raise money, and that's okay too. Our goal is that at least a third of them will make the step into venture and maybe raise a seed round or pre-seed round. So I'll just highlight one that I've kept in really close touch with over the last several years, and that's called Campground Views, campgroundviews.com. The founder's name is Mark, and he was a full-time RVer with his family for many years and decided to put down some roots in Wyoming. So they live in the Sundance area, and he had, he had built this company that helps. I'm not good at pitching this company anymore, but it's like virtual tours. Think of it kind of like Google Maps, but for campgrounds specifically. But there's a lot more tech to it than that. So I don't want to undersell this. It's a very unique video and mappable and, visual way to determine whether your giant RV rig is going to fit in this spot, what your view might be from that spot. Are you next to the tent sites? Are you next to other RVs? Things like that. So helps RVers or campers find the perfect campsite and then book that campsite. And so he put down some roots in Wyoming but didn't necessarily have the network here to help him raise money and help him figure out how to grow this company. So he did the G-Beta program a couple of years ago and has since gone on to raise, I think, about $600,000 through different investors, both here in Wyoming as well as elsewhere. So they're off and running and doing really well, and hoping to raise, I believe, or continue to scale and grow from an RV in Sundance. Or I think they actually have a house now, but he spends a lot of time RVing with his family still. So yeah, I'll pause there, let Steph go. She's got some recent alumni too.
Yeah. I mean, and Baylie's obviously done a lot more cohorts. I just finished my first one this summer. So I'm a little bit more familiar with the ones who just went through the program. And so it's interesting. We've represented 20 cities at this point through our G-Beta program. And so we definitely want to keep the spread across Wyoming because there's, like Baylie said, there's so many cool ideas out there, and we want to feature these folks and make it accessible. So I'll give a couple examples. My most recent cohort, we had a founder who participated in their ranchers in Oshodo, Wyoming, which doesn't have a post office or a bar or anything, but they're just out kind of in the middle of nowhere, but they're closest to Sundance or Gillette, so that upper east area. So they were pre-revenue, still very early stage, but they have a physical product. And so it mitigates ice in the winter for stock tanks for their livestock. So they've gotten a lot of press, so I'm hoping I can present them still. But they created and invented this device, patent pending, that does help the water by creating ripples so it doesn't freeze. It also in the summer helps sort of minimize the amount of mosquito breeding and algae and stuff that forms and just stagnant hot water. And so this is amazing for that community in terms of ag tech because they can use it year round. It's a good investment. But they're still on the prototype stage. So they really wanted help understanding, how can we grow this? And so we focused a lot of our attention on, growing their wait list. And so small towns, word of mouth travels quickly. And so they were able to build their wait list and build their social media presence in a very short amount of time. Our one press release got them 2 or 3 subsequent articles, one in a, I think, ag magazine, or I don't quote me on this, but I think they got national attention after that. And so the fact that they were willing and able, being ranchers, which I think is a really perfect story about Wyoming folks, because they're still willing to be they're entrepreneurs already, owning, livestock and doing the whole ranching thing, which we know is a lot of hard work, but willing to commit the time every week for this program and then also pursuing this outside of that. It's just a really cool story. And so they were awesome to work with. And then I had 2 other companies in Casper. They, went on to participate in the Casper Startup Challenge, which is another opportunity for entrepreneurs to win some seed money, prize money, I suppose. And so it was a cool group to work with. And they were all young freshmen in college all the way to, working professionals in their 50s. So it's truly for anyone, and just how hard they want to work, and how much they want to pursue it. And you really get to know these people, 5 hours a week working with them one-on-one. It's really cool to see.
I love that you said that ranchers are entrepreneurs. I've never thought about it like that, but isn't that the truth? Like, they work for themselves. They make their own living. They have to make it work. And as an entrepreneur, that's what it's always about. It's about your grit, right? Sticking with it, finding the opportunities, really.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I think a lot of times, especially maybe in Wyoming, there are people out there with amazing ideas that don't consider themselves entrepreneurs, or, people who want to grow a business and they don't maybe understand what entrepreneur is, or they just don't identify with that particular word. So when we're, recruiting and reaching out for this program, we often don't use the word entrepreneur. We'll use somebody with a cool idea, or like, if you have a business that you'd like to grow, let's talk. And that happens a lot in places, I think, in generators, smaller, underestimated markets where people don't necessarily set out to be a venture-backed entrepreneur. They set out to do a cool thing and make a cool product. So it's always fun to tell people you're an entrepreneur, right? And sometimes they go, oh, I guess I am. It's kind of cool to see that. So
the light bulb went on there. Oh yeah, I guess, yeah, I'm doing it.
I'm doing it. Yeah.
I just don't have the definition. It's kind of like, I was watching this one. It was like a YouTube on a mom, and a mom is an engineer, and she went through all the ways that she's an engineer. It's like, yeah, I get that. That's totally cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and there's so many resources for entrepreneurs and small businesses in Wyoming that are free. But I think what I've seen it just talking to people, they don't necessarily know where to start, or maybe which direction they want to go. And so I think Wyoming is still working on maybe making these things accessible and show them the exact directions of where to go. And so luckily, Baylie and I really fill that gap in terms of our programming and this sort of investor strategy. Really, that's our niche.
I'm curious, and I know people will really be curious about this, is that you're entering into this cohort and you're learning a lot, okay? And you're developing and kind of honing in your product and how to develop it, or just refining your idea, right? Your creative idea. Is it mostly products? How do you describe that to people? One's an online thing.
Yeah. It's a common question. Sorry if I cut you off, Steph. But yeah, so we call that SaaS, software as a service, is usually a software, like the Campground Views program is a software mostly. And those are sort of the common investable type of companies. And that's because you build a cool thing, you need 1 or 2 people to build the cool thing, and then you can just sell it anywhere and everywhere, and it scales. That has tended to be kind of where venture tends to gravitate, because it can scale so quickly and inexpensively. However, there are lots of product-based, like CPG is often used, consumer product goods.
Consumer packaged goods, yeah.
Packaged goods. We've had quite a few come through our G-Beta program that have done really well. Manufacturing type products can do really well also. And in fact, there is some indication that the product will be where venture kind of will be focusing over the next, I don't know, say decade. SaaS or software companies are great, but I don't know if you kind of dig in and you start thinking about what might be next, patentable products, things like that, I think could be the next kind of thing that venture is paying attention to. So,
like I said before, we're industry agnostic. So any sort of industry. So for example, my last cohort, we had one service that was more in the sustainability industry. We had a SaaS company that was AI integration, which again is going to be huge. Obviously that's blowing up now, but we had 3 other companies who had a physical hardware, physical product where they all had patents on it, or it was patent pending. It was an invention of some sort. They have the proprietary processes or, trade secrets, whatever includes to make it something that gives them the upper hand. And so, one was a mouthwash that was geared towards kids under 6 that could be swallowed, but still effective for reducing bacteria in cavities. Another one was the ag tech product, right? And then the third one was an actual little specific device to dentists. So really focus on dentists. So they could be either very specific or it could be, a little bit more general in terms of SaaS where anybody necessarily could use it. And yeah, Baylie, same way. She's had companies from this point to this point where it's sort of anything and everything.
So how do people find out about you? How do people, you have an idea, you've created something. I mean, I think there are a lot of people out there who might be doing something or solving a problem like the one you said about the ranch. What do they call it? Gener8tor?
Water Rippler, and it's
Rippler. Okay.
Agricultural Innovations is the company.
Okay, so I can see how people who live and work all the time create solutions for different problems. But how do they find out about you? How do they find out like this is something good and I should go talk to somebody?
Great question. I'll take it, Baylie, and you can add on. So we heavily recruit, and our strategy is really, really build a positive rapport and these stronger relationships with our community players or our ecosystem players. And so, I've reached out to all the Chamber of Commerce. We're close with the SBDC here in Wyoming. We're close with folks at university. I can make presentations to the entrepreneurship classes, business classes. The college there has been really helpful in spreading the word. We have a close relationship with the WBC. We work closely with Wyoming Women's Business Center. So I think strategy-wise is to really make sure we have the whole state covered in terms of our relationship and knowing what they do, but also them knowing what we do and sort of having this great collaboration that when they come across these folks, maybe send them to us and we kind of do that, vice versa. But I would say recruitment has been a huge part of that. But also we work closely with Rachel at the Laramie County Library. She runs the library to business, and sometimes she'll work with people and be like, hey. So I think a lot of it maybe is just situation based and they promote us. Other times it's us holding events or speaking opportunities or podcasts like this or press releases or anything and everything we could do. We do it. It's for the whole state. It's a grind,
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say, we come on podcasts like the Wyoming Humanities podcast. No, but I would say one of the bigger challenges that we face in places like Indiana and Wyoming and Alaska and Nebraska is finding people. If we were in Silicon Valley, we'd put up a poster and we'd have 100 applicants probably. In Wyoming, we really have to kind of shake the bushes and shake a lot of hands and go to events and, try to get folks that have had this idea lingering in the back of their head for a long time to maybe take the next step. And it's a challenge, but I think it's one of the best things of our job, is to sit down with folks and meet them. And a lot of times it's like, where you been? You've been doing this cool thing for a long time. And like, let's learn more about it. And that's really fun. It just always amazes me. I'll go sit and do coffee or office hours somewhere and get to talk to people about their cool ideas. And it's really fun. But it can be a challenge. Like I said, people don't necessarily hold their hands up and say, I'm an entrepreneur and I want investable, I want Zoom made my hand go up. That was funny. They don't necessarily like show up for a venture capital seminar because they don't necessarily understand it, or they feel intimidated by it. So we're trying to just sort of like break down those walls and pop the bubbles and try to help people understand that this is something that they can take advantage of. And if you know enough about it, it won't take advantage of you. If you understand what venture capital means, it's just an opportunity. Nobody's forcing you down that journey. But if you want to try it, we're here to help.
That is so great. And you've just shared just a wealth of information. And I want to tell people what is your website? Because I want people to know it so they can Google it right away and go there. But I'm also going to put it in your description as well as any other resources you want to share with Wyoming. I'll put it in your description that goes along with the podcast. But tell me your website.
The best way to find us, honestly, because Gener8tor has that annoying little 8 in the middle of it, is to just Google G-Beta Wyoming. So G-B-E-T-A Wyoming. And you'll find us. It's a Gener8tor program. That's the best way. And then did you want to say anything else, Steph? The other resources and things?
Yeah. If you Google us, I mean, you'll see all my LinkedIn posts. I try to, promote it as much as possible there. So there's several ways you'll see my email, or if you want to meet with me and learn more about the programs, or, Baylie as well. But yeah, our website, because if you go straight to the website, you go free accelerators, that you kind of have a lot more steps to do. But yeah, explore the website if you'd like, Gener8tor.com. But easiest thing, just Google our Wyoming program.
Okay, great. Well, thank you both so much. Thank you for taking the time with me today.
Thanks so much for having us and for doing this series. This is really cool.
Yeah, this is great.
Thank you for listening. I'm executive producer, Emmy DeGrappa. Winds of Change is brought to you by Wyoming Humanities, our co-hosts, and all the people who generously share their stories and their time. For more information, go to thinkwy.org. Subscribe and never miss a show.